Old Hollywood did not just sell beautiful faces, it sold an illusion. And what gives me chills is that many of those illusions were held together with tape, chemicals, sharp metal tools, special lighting, brutal schedules, and secrets locked behind dressing room doors. We are about to step into a world where beauty was not merely applied, but manufactured. Those faces once called immortal did not naturally stand against time. Some people had their hairlines altered. Some had to endure harsh chemicals to maintain a deadly hair color. Some were lit in a special way so the audience would never see the real scars. What is even more frightening is that Hollywood made the entire world believe that this beauty came at no cost. Trust me, the story behind those perfect faces is much darker than the glamorous photographs we have seen. This is not just a story about lipstick blush or carefully curled hair. This is a story about control, about how an industry turned women into images, then forced them to live inside those images. If you want me to explore more movies, TV shows, or Hollywood secrets, just comment right below. And I'm Ryan. Please like and subscribe to the channel to start exploring the main content of this video with me. Marlene Dietrich entered Hollywood like a ghost made of velvet and cigarette smoke. After The Blue Angel, she was no longer simply a European actress who had caught people's attention. She became a face calculated down to every angle of light, every line of the lips, every shadow on the eyelids. With Marlene Dietrich, nothing was left to chance. Thin eyebrows, sharply drawn lips, cheekbones lifted by darkness and light. In front of the camera, her face no longer looked like ordinary flesh. It looked like a breathing statue. But behind that cold beauty was a secret passed around for years. Dietrich was said to have used tape hidden under her hair or wigs to pull her facial skin tight before filming. That was the particular cruelty of classic Hollywood. The audience saw a nearly supernatural elegance, while behind the camera were very ordinary techniques pulling the skin, hiding the tension, placing the light in exactly the right spot, then letting the lens turn it all into legend. Even Dietrich's hair carried a sense of extravagance, with rumors that her wigs were once dusted with real gold powder to catch the light. Hollywood did not just apply makeup to her, it gilded an icon. If Dietrich was a face tightened by discipline, then Jean Harlow was the girl turned into a flash of white lightning. On the black and white screen, her platinum hair seemed to glow almost as if it did not belong to nature. MGM understood very well the power of that image. But according to hairstylist Alfred Pagano, that hair color was maintained with peroxide, ammonia, Clorox, and Lux soap flakes, a harsh chemical process that makes people today shudder just hearing about it. When Platinum Blonde in 1931 attached that phrase to Harlow Hollywood, turned a hair color into a publicity campaign and a real woman into a sparkling nickname. If Harlow was transformed into white light, Rita Hayworth was recreated into an American dream. She was born Margarita Carmen Cancino in Brooklyn in 1918. But Hollywood did not want to keep that girl intact. The old name disappeared. Dark hair became red, and her style became softer and easier to sell. Rita's most painful change was not her hair color or her name, but her hairline. According to many repeated accounts, Hayworth underwent electrolysis to raise her hairline, making her forehead look higher and her face longer on screen. A single hairline could determine whether a woman was accepted by Hollywood or pushed into supporting roles. Hollywood did not only ask Rita to act, it asked her to erase traces of her former self, so the world could later call her the Love Goddess, as if that image had not been built through pain. Joan Crawford was different. She did not enter this story as a helpless victim. Crawford understood the game, and she played it with an almost military strictness. By the 1930s, when she was already a major MGM star, her face had become increasingly cold, hard, and powerful. Darker eyebrows, a sharper mouth, cheekbones that looked carved with a knife. Joan Crawford did not merely want to be beautiful. She wanted to appear as a woman who could not be defeated. Behind that steel-like image were beauty rituals that were almost military in discipline. Splashing her face with cold water or ice water many times after washing it, with the number often mentioned being 25 times. For Crawford, the body was not a place to rest. It was a tool that always had to be ready for the camera. In My Way of Life, in 1971, Crawford also described very detailed skincare routines: steaming the face, applying masks, placing cotton pads soaked in witch hazel or boric acid over the eyelids, rinsing with warm water, then finishing with cold water. Nothing about that appearance was accidental. At MGM, even one sign of fatigue could be seen as weakness, so Crawford's face always had to be controlled, firm, and alert. Then came Marilyn Monroe, a beauty both dazzling and sad. Her radiance was not only a natural gift, but the result of skincare makeup lighting and enormous pressure. A 1959 skincare prescription from Dr. Erno Laszlo shows that Marilyn's beauty routine was as detailed as a plan: cleansing, moisturizing, foundation, powder products for daytime events, and nighttime. Makeup artist Alan Whitey Snyder helped create that immortal face with arched eyebrows, carefully shaded eyelids, false lashes, and red lips built in many layers. But what made Marilyn special was the glow on her skin. She was often associated with using Vaseline or heavy cream under makeup to catch the light, making her skin look soft, moist, and alive. The world saw Marilyn shining, while Hollywood saw a surface that had to be constantly prepared and maintained. Greta Garbo, on the other hand, conquered the screen with still mysterious eyes. People said she used Vaseline on her eyelids to create shine, giving her gaze more depth on black and white film. From Garbo's cold mystery to Audrey Hepburn's clear innocence, Hollywood continued to prove that even natural beauty could be carefully staged. Audrey's lashes were said to have been separated one by Alberto De Rossi after mascara was applied, just so those eyes would appear perfect in close-up. What looks the lightest and most effortless is sometimes the very thing controlled with the most care. Elizabeth Taylor did not need anyone to teach the world to notice her eyes. Almost every story about Taylor returns to her gaze, her strong brows, thick lashes, powerful lips, and famous eye color. But one beauty habit linked to her lies in a very practical detail. Elizabeth Taylor was said to have shaved her facial hair, something many people today call dermaplaning. It helped remove peach fuzz and dead skin cells, making the skin's surface smoother under studio lights. It does not sound as glamorous as diamonds or evening gowns, but on the big screen, it mattered a great deal. Light could exaggerate every tiny hair, every uneven layer of powder, every detail that ordinary people would never notice. Taylor is remembered as a lavish, almost royal beauty, but before that splendor appeared, there were still very basic preparation steps. What feels chilling is that Hollywood did not only require women to be beautiful, it required them to be beautiful under magnification, beautiful under merciless light, beautiful down to every pore. No matter how dazzling Elizabeth Taylor was, she still had to live by those rules. Bette Davis was a different kind of legend. She did not fit the mold of the obedient beauty, but her sharp, tired, angry, intelligent eyes became a cinematic weapon. People said Davis used cucumber slices on her eyelids and applied Vaseline under her eyes to reduce puffiness and dark circles, keeping her eyes ready for the battlefield of acting. For Davis, the eyes were not just for beauty. In Of Human Bondage, Jezebel, Now Voyager, and All About Eve, her gaze could cut, plead, sneer, or collapse in a single moment. Hollywood may not have known what kind of beauty to call her, but it could not look away from her. In 1981, Kim Carnes' song Betty Davis Eyes reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, carrying Davis's most famous feature to a new generation. A pair of eyes that once dominated black and white film suddenly lived on in popular music decades later. If Taylor was beauty-polished into luxury, Katharine Hepburn represented a more minimalist kind of pride. The beauty secret linked to her sounds almost like a kitchen recipe: lemon juice and sugar to exfoliate the skin. But what mattered was not only the recipe, but the image it reinforced. Hepburn is remembered by the public for trousers, short hair, high cheekbones, clean skin, and an independent presence. She seemed to resist glamour, but that too was a controlled style. In old Hollywood, even naturalness had to be performed. Mae West stepped onto the screen like a walking performance. Corsets, pale curls, heavy dresses, diamonds, a slow voice, and lines full of suggestion made the whole room seem to change its rhythm around her. But the beauty secret often linked to West was strangely simple: coconut oil. People believed she used it on her face and neck as a moisturizer long before it became a modern trend. In the middle of an image exaggerated through theater scandal and bold confidence, that detail feels surprisingly ordinary. In 1927, West was arrested after her Broadway play, Sex, was considered obscene. But she turned the scandal into publicity fuel. West understood that scandal could destroy a person, but if you controlled the story, it could also make you more famous. Then came Sophia Loren, and the atmosphere changed completely. Loren brought Mediterranean warmth, dark eyes, full lips, high bone structure, and a sensuality very different from Hollywood's standard of blonde, porcelain-skinned beauty. The secret most often mentioned with her was olive oil in food, in skincare, and in the entire legend of Italian beauty. But that simplicity should not fool us. Loren's image was also arranged through hair, makeup, lighting, wardrobe, posture, and the way Hollywood marketed her difference. Olive oil was only the easy story the public could hold on to. A global icon is not created from a single bottle of oil in the kitchen, but Hollywood is very good at turning complex illusions into one charming little secret. Grace Kelly was another kind of illusion beauty, constructed to look as if it had not been constructed at all. She was not a storm of sensuality, but frozen elegance, with glowing skin, glossy hair, soft lips, and clothes that were always in the right place. One beauty secret linked to Kelly was contouring with blush, using a darker tone under the cheekbones and a lighter tone on the cheeks to shape the face without revealing the technique. That was the magic of Grace Kelly. The work had to disappear. The viewer was not supposed to think about powder brushes or technique, but only see bone structure refinement and expensive grace. But that untouched beauty was also a performance. In old Hollywood, even subtlety required control, so the maker's hand would not show. And if light could lift a cheekbone, it could also hide a scar. Merle Oberon's story shows how old Hollywood was both brilliant and cruel. After a 1937 car accident left scars on her face, makeup was no longer enough for close-ups. So Lucien Ballard, the cinematographer who later became her husband, developed a small light placed near the camera lens to soften the scars and create a sparkle in Oberon's eyes. The device was called the Obi light, named after her, and it was used in The Lodger, released in 1944. But Oberon's story had an even darker layer. She was born in India and hid her mixed-race background throughout her career. Hollywood promoted a different origin story, tying her to Tasmania, as if the original truth of who she was had to be placed behind a curtain. Only after Oberon died in 1979 was her real background discussed more widely. It was not only the scar on her face that was hidden by light. An entire part of her identity was also blurred by that industry. Claudette Colbert did not need a special light like Oberon, but she understood another powerful Hollywood secret. An angle could be destiny. As one of the biggest stars of the 1930s, Colbert controlled her image very tightly. She especially preferred being filmed from her left side because of a small bump on the right side of her nose from a childhood injury. From one small detail on the face, the entire set, the actors' positions, and the camera angle could all have to change. That was not just the vanity of a movie star. It reflected a very real fear in Hollywood. One unflattering angle could crack an image built over many years. Mary Astor was said to have compared Colbert's right profile to the other side of the moon. The comment sounds funny, but also cruel. In an industry that lived on appearances, even one side of a face could become forbidden territory. Norma Shearer began her battle with the screen through her own eyes. Before becoming an MGM star, she was once told that her uneven or crossed eyes could stand in the way of her career. In the silent film era, when the eyes had to carry every emotion in place of dialogue, that was almost a fatal judgment. But Shearer refused to be pushed out of the dream. According to the stories told about her, she went to Dr. William Bates, trained her eye muscles for years, practiced in front of mirrors, searched for angles, searched for poses, and found ways to make the camera take her side. Eventually, she became one of MGM's most important actresses. If Shearer had to train her eyes, Veronica Lake was trapped by her own hair. Her wavy hairstyle covering one eye became a seductive icon of the early 1940s. But when the United States entered World War II, more women began working in factories, and loose hair near machinery became dangerous. Lake helped encourage women to tie their hair back safely while working. Ironically, that correct and responsible action damaged her star image. When the hair over one eye disappeared, part of the Veronica Lake magic disappeared with it. Hollywood loves icons, but it rarely forgives them when those icons change. The deeper we go, the heavier the story becomes. And then we come to Judy Garland, one of the hardest parts to tell because she was not only a movie icon, she was a teenager controlled far too early by the Hollywood machine. Born in 1922 as Frances Ethel Gumm, Garland signed with MGM when she was still very young. The studio did not sell her as a classic, glamorous beauty, but as the embodiment of youth, emotion, and relatability. But behind that image was a cruel system of control. MGM monitored Garland's appearance, weight, stamina, and even the rhythm of her life. Her look was adjusted through dental caps, camera angles, and the way her nose appeared on screen. But darker still was the way medication was once used within the studio system to control the weight, energy, sleep, and working schedules of young performers. A girl loved by the whole country for her voice and vitality had to survive inside a machine that calculated every pound, every hour of sleep, every moment of alertness. From Garland, the story takes us back to Clara Bow of the 1920s, when silent film needed faces to speak in place of sound. Bow was the energetic, modern, rebellious flapper girl with lively eyes and short hair that carried the spirit of a new era. The secret of her image lay in her small, sharp Cupid's bow lips, drawn boldly to stand out on screen. Those lips were not only beautiful, they became a visual symbol, helping the audience feel the mischief, desire, and vitality of the character without hearing a single line of dialogue. That shows that old Hollywood did not just record beauty, it invented the language of beauty. A mouth could become a style, a lip shape could become an era. But to create an icon, the real face often had to make room for a designed image. And then came Lucille Ball, later remembered as the queen of American television comedy. Before I Love Lucy in 1951, she had already gone through many image versions. Brunette showgirl, blonde beauty, then red-haired television star. Lucille Ball was also linked to a very old Hollywood trick using tape or lifting material hidden under the hair to temporarily raise the face in front of the camera. But what matters is that she did not rely only on her face. She used it like a comedic instrument. Every nose wrinkle, wide-eyed stare, and exaggerated expression became laughter. Even so, the woman who made America laugh was also part of a highly controlled beauty system. The public image people loved did not naturally fall from the sky. It was dyed, built, pulled, lit, and repeated until it became legend. When I look back at all these stories, I do not just see lipstick and lights. I see a giant laboratory where Hollywood experimented on women's images to create dreams that could sell tickets. A hair color could become a brand, a scar could be erased by light, and a name could be replaced. The lesson here is not that makeup is bad or that beauty is wrong. Beauty can be art, joy, and freedom. But when an industry turns appearance into a prison, forcing people to erase their roots, endure pain, hide scars, or be controlled from adolescence, it is no longer only beauty. It is power. Old Hollywood left us dazzling films and immortal faces, but underneath that silver layer were many scratches. So when we look back at those icons, perhaps the most humane thing is to look at beauty with more compassion. The spotlight can make a face shine, but it can also blur the truth behind the camera. If any of these stories surprised you the most, leave a comment right below. I truly want to know what you think about the price old Hollywood once forced its stars to pay. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to keep exploring Hollywood's dust-covered files with me. Thank you for staying until the end of the video. I'm Ryan, and in Ryan's Hollywood Uncovered, we do not only look at stars when they shine, we also look at the cracks that made that light so heartbreaking. See you in the next episode.